Welcome to my introductory videos on using Photoshop. Photoshop is a very robust tool, and there are many things that you can do with it. You can create very painterly images. You can design layouts for things. There are so many possibilities with Photoshop, and we are going to touch on very few of those possibilities. There are obviously some applications with costume design and scenic design that Photoshop will be extremely helpful for. However, we're primarily going to work on getting to know the interface, the layers, and a few of the tools for the purposes of marketing, specifically marketing for the UIL Design Challenge. For this lesson, I'm going to create a really rudimentary propaganda poster for pirates. This is a cute little assignment that I came up with when we were doing SpongeBob. Those familiar with the show may be familiar with Pirates Are People Too, or I think Poor Pirates is the name of the song. I only directed it. Why would I know the name of anything? And I thought it would be a really nice idea if we put all these propaganda posters in our school, none of which actually happened, but at the very least, it was a useful tool for teaching this to my design students. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click on our Photoshop icon down here. I am working with the beta. However, for these tutorial purposes, I am not going to be using any of the tools that are not available in the standard Photoshop application. Here is your home screen. If you were to click this Photoshop icon up here, usually it's blue with white lettering, it's going to take you to your workspace. This is where you can just drag in an image, and here's a heart that we're going to be using. However, the problem with doing so is it's going to create a file that has the constraints of the dimensions of that image, and that's not really useful for our purposes. So I'm going to go navigate back to our home, and I'm going to create a new file. Now, I've been using Photoshop for a while, so it's hard for me to remember the actual original layout of all this. You may be seeing a different screen, which is fine. Let's say that this is what comes up. These are some of the standards, not the dimensions I had already listed over here in the presets. So we're going to go ahead and change those so that they are our desired dimensions. Now, since we're creating a poster, the posters that we use in our department are 11 by 17, and I believe that the posters, at least for the last few design challenges, are 11 by 17. I've only been working on it with that competition for a couple of years. So what we're going to do, let's go ahead and start with orientation. If we were to click here, this is going to be our landscape. Like if you were to take your phone and turn it on its side to take a picture of a lovely landscape, but then your friend says, hey, get a picture of me, and then you turn it back to regular phone orientation, that's going to give you your portrait orientation. Well, we want it to be portrait because our posters are going to be vertical rather than horizontal, and I want my width to be 11 inches. Now, we use inches here in America because we don't know better. Honestly, I think metric would be very useful for things like cutting lumber and getting exact increments rather than looking at all those little, what's that? Is that a 16th? That's a 1, 2, 3, 6 sixteenths. Millimeters just seems a lot more useful. However, I was taught inches because I'm an American and, I don't know any better. However, when it comes to marketing materials and paper, I cannot eyeball a sheet of paper that is an A4 or A5. I don't know what any of that means. I do know what a standard 11 by 17 looks like, or an 8.5 by 11. So we're going to go ahead and stick with that. Now, when we're talking about resolution, 300 pixels per inch or dots per inch, I'm going to probably use them interchangeably. It's just how many pixels are within an inch of the image. We tend to use much lower resolution for things for the screen, for instance, video. Now, most of the time people are creating things at a higher resolution for video because maybe you need to scan or zoom in and it needs to be a little bit more dynamic, or you're just creating something to post on social media. It's usually going to be, I think, 72 or 75 pixels per inch. We want to make sure that we're creating higher resolution images for, even if we're just creating stock images that we're going to use in a final piece, we want the highest quality, because when we drop those in there, we don't want that to be a really beautiful sunset and look at that tree and then there's a bird flying across and it looks all pixelated because we didn't get our bird in a high enough resolution. And so we're going to want to make sure that we're right around 300 pixels per inch. That is going to be how many pixels are in 1 inch of that 11 by 17. So for instance, if we're doing a 10 by 10 image, you're looking at 3000 by 3000, right? If you're doing a 5 by 5, you're going to be 1500 by 1500, right? So the resolution should be for, keep in mind that like if you're creating a small heart at 300 pixels per inch, but the dimensions are really small, it's going to be hard to zoom into that heart. So we're going to want to make sure that we're creating a heart in a large enough canvas so that we can have access to it later. So whenever you're creating your stock, make sure that you're creating at the highest possible resolution. You should start to create your own stock. So let's stop and talk briefly about having the rights to the material you use. When you are working on the UIL Design Challenge, you should not be using any material, any assets, any images that you don't have the rights to use. As a matter of fact, that's a good practice in everything you're doing whenever you're creating media. We have a tendency to think that we can post a video of someone doing a funny dance and then we just have like a reaction to it, or we have this look, or we add a little bit of text on the screen. Like, I created that. I'm a content creator. That's not really going to cut it when you're working specifically with the design challenge. But I think that we need to re-examine our processes and get off my soapbox, because I can go down a rabbit hole on how we're just not creating content the way that we should be creating. So I'm going to stop my lecture on that. But what we have done is we created our 11 by 17, and we're going to throw some images that I had either created myself or I purchased the rights to. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create, and that is our canvas right there, which is very different from the heart we opened earlier. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get started just by talking about the different areas that we have here within Photoshop. Here's our canvas. Over here on the left, those are the tools, and we're going to get into a couple of the tools that we're going to use. And then we have this really highly customizable set of palettes over here. And while we can like collapse the tools so it's taking up less vertical space and they're all clustered closer together, that's fine. The amount of customization over here to your palettes is pretty crazy. You can, I don't know why you would do this, but maybe this is the way you need to work. You can definitely do that. So we're going to focus first on our palettes. However, this is awful. If I were to close the program and reopen it, it's going to be like, hey, this is what you like, right? It's like, no, that is not helpful for me at all. So we're going to go over to our window, and because, these are like different windows, right? And we're going to click on workspace, and we're going to reset the essentials. And the essentials are kind of how things come to you. Now, I like a little bit more of a color palette over here. I don't really want the swatches, gradients, or patterns for this. Maybe that's useful for you. I don't want the libraries. I like the properties, I guess, but I don't really use them a whole lot. I like adjustments. I'm going to put my adjustments over here because I don't want that taking up all that space. However, one of the things that I think is extremely useful for marketing that is not here is we're going to go over to Windows, and we're going to bring in our character. Character is your text, and I don't like it over there. I want that right there so that I have a little bit more access to. Now, if you were to do that, I think it generally it comes with a couple other things docked to it. I often get rid of those because I want paragraph and I want character, but that lets us add the text that we want. Here's my adjustments, and then this is going to be our comments. Oh, we don't need comments, but I do want our history, right? I want to be able to know that I can go back and undo things that have been done. Unlike real life, you can't go back and tell yourself, maybe don't spend so much time dating that person. I mean, hey, look, you grew You know, that was a helpful relationship, but did you really need to beat yourself up so long after the breakup? No. So maybe go back and get rid of that, those couple of keystrokes that were really wasting your life. You could have been learning a skill, like Photoshop. All right, so here is the beginning of our pirate poster. It looks amazing because it is just blank, and there's so many possibilities.